Alright guys, BLM here, back with a new video. In this video, we're finally talking about an upcoming Survivor season. Once again, it's been a while, but here we're going to be doing a cast assessment for the newest season of Survivor South Africa, Survivor South Africa Immunity Island. And I will say that I did have some debate over when to do this video, if I should do it now immediately after the cast comes out, essentially doing this based off of first impressions, or if I should do it closer to when the season starts, probably having more knowledge, more interviews. I obviously decided on the former. And I will say that because of that, there are definitely people that I have a lot more solid opinions about than others. Basically, what we have been given at this point is, obviously we have the cast photos, the jobs, the ages, and we have like a paragraph long bio with quotes from each of these players. Now also on social media, they have posted a couple videos here and there that I've watched as well. So we do have 20 players to be running through. We are going to run through them in alphabetical order. So let's start off with Amy, who is a corporate lawyer, 33. To be honest, I don't think Amy's a good person to be starting off here with, because I don't have super solid opinions on Amy. I think the thing about Amy is that her bio is very much about her kind of applying to Survivor on a whim, of her like just drinking wine one night and then seeing a Survivor commercial and just saying, hey, I can do that, and then just applying. I don't know how to really feel about Amy here. I mean, she is of kind of a perfect age to be playing Survivor. Again, like the perfect age to be playing Survivor typically is like late 20s to early 30s. She is a lawyer, so I would assume that she is very intelligent. The thing that I don't really know about Amy just yet is how intense she is going to be. Like, I don't know if she's like a super laid back person. If that's the case, I probably would have her assessed higher. Or if she is going to be a type A personality, and in that sense, would probably assess her much lower. I mean, the sense I get from her bio is obviously she's probably more of the former. She doesn't seem super serious, but she isn't someone that I really see making it too far. I mean, based on her bio and her image and everything, like the vibes I'm getting from her are kind of similar to that of Rose Lee, who was someone from Island of Secrets that I believe was of a similar age, kind of similar-ish archetype. However, Rose Lee obviously ended up being a relatively early boot. Mind you, she did get swap screwed, but even then, she didn't seem like she had too much potential for the long game, and that's kind of the same vibe I'm getting from Amy here. Next up, we have Anela, a math educator and rugby coach, 25 years old, and to me, my first impression of this guy was that he was going to be similar to Rob Bentley, but not in the good way. Where Rob Bentley, coming into last season, obviously now like he's looked at as one of the best players of all time across any Survivor series, but coming into that season, I very much had my doubts. I really thought he was going to be this big alpha guy that would be taken out around the merge, and that's kind of the sense I get from Anela here. Not feeling great about him. He just seems a bit over his head. I don't think he really knows the game at all. I just feel like he's one of these people that comes into one of these reality shows not knowing anything about the show, but still thinks that they can become one of the best players of all time. Now, I will say that I do think he seems good enough at every aspect of the game. I mean, like, he seems to be a really physical guy. He didn't seem to be terrible socially. He seems to be someone that's willing to play strategically. However, even though you're playing strategically, doesn't mean that you're going to be playing strategically well. It doesn't mean that you're going to know the ins and outs of the game and what you should be doing during certain scenarios. And because that, again, not feeling great about Anela here, definitely not someone that I have too high of an opinion of. Next up, we have Anesu, who is a medical doctor, yoga teacher, and small business owner. And right in her bio, she has a quote that says she's a natural leader, healer, earth lover, and avid dreamer. And I will say that for me, right away, she screams out to me as a Nora-esque figure. Nora from Island of the Idols. Of kind of being this pretty intelligent person, being someone that has the ability to function in this high intensity sort of job, but also has this like really wacky side to him. Now, again, I will say that I have not watched any interviews with most of these people, and I do feel like that is the main thing that I'm missing, is seeing these people's actual personalities. So because that, I mean, my assessments of these people could be dead wrong, but based on what I'm seeing from her bio, in the sense that I get from her is, again, like, I feel like she's going to be a potential Nora-esque figure, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I think while it could harm you socially, I do feel like if she's strategically able enough, which is something Nora was not, I do feel like she could still gain the respect of the jury by the end of the game to win the game. But overall, though, nothing in her bio or anything else from outside of that is really making me think super highly of her. So again, not one that I don't have much faith in to win the game. Next up, we have Carla, a corporate sales executive and entrepreneur. And she's the first person here in her bio that mentions that she is a fan of the show. Talks about how she's watched every season of Survivor that's aired over the past 20 years. Now, again, like, how much does that really mean? I mean, obviously, like, I'm assuming it means at least US and South Africa. I don't know if that also means like Australian Survivor or anything beyond that. But to me, the vibe that I get from her is kind of similar to that of like a Chelsea Walker or maybe an Allie Elliott, of a younger, I mean, she's 29, she's probably a bit older than both of those, but still a young-ish fan of the show, someone that's probably going to play hard, but also get out pretty early. Like, I feel like Carla is going to be a pre-merge boot. That's kind of the sense I get from her. And we see this on so many seasons of this strategically savvy younger woman getting taken out relatively early. However, I do think Carla is one of these people that have, like, she's able to get past that. If she's able to make it to the merge, I do feel like she has a lot more potential within the game. And to be honest, I see her having an easier road to the merge than certain other people. But to me, she just screams out as someone that will be sniped earlier on in the game. Next up, we have Francois Chapman, who is going by Chappies. And for me, the vibe I get from him right off the bat is very much Xavion vibes from Survivor South Africa Champions, and not the good Xavion. I'm talking about the bad Xavion. Essentially, Xavion before he became a good player. The Xavion that became a very domineering figure on his tribe initially and had the entire tribe flip the game on him. And while Xavion did recover after that, again, he built a really good relationship with Graham, rode his way to the final five from that point forward in a pretty good position. The question for me with Chappies here is he going to be able to have that ability to him? And to be honest, I don't really see it. I do see Chappies as a really good physical competitor. But at the end of the day, again, like, I just don't have that much faith in him to make it past the early merge section of the game. But again, he could surprise me. He could become like a Xavion. He could become like a Rob Bentley. He could become like any of these other like massive physical threats that actually do build inroads good enough to make it through that early merge section of the game. And if he gets to the end game, like, I could see him winning out. I could see him being a dominant figure in an alliance. Like, I do feel like there is some potential there. But the most likely outcome, in my opinion, is still for him to be an early merge boot. Next up, we have Dino, a live escape game owner, and I believe he is one of the bigger super fans on the cast. I do believe he posted on Twitter himself talking about how he's been waiting for this for years, and it's like, I get good vibes on Dino. I do feel like Dino is the type of person that I am going to be rooting for. I think 100% he's going to be my rooting interests of the season, or at least one of them. And he seems to be someone that, like, right off the bat, he seems to get the strategy of the game. He gets that he doesn't need to be playing hard all the time, which is obviously one of the bigger flaws of some of these super fans that come into the game. I do still worry for him, though. I do feel like there's potential for him to come off as schemy. I mean, in a way, he kind of reminds me of Jeffrey from Island of Secrets, which, I mean, to be fair, Jeffrey was my winner pick for Island of Secrets. But again, like, I feel like they're of a similar age. I feel like he seems like a similar sort of personality of this person that can be very strategic and play a really strategic game, but also seems to be laid back enough to be able to build social bonds. And again, like, I'm hoping that read is correct. Like, I hope he is someone that doesn't come off as too intense. But the vibe I get is that he is a bit more of a carefree sort of person. And because I do feel pretty good about Dino, and he's definitely someone that is a winner contender for me. Next up, we have Jason. And I mean, I think first up, when you first see him, I mean, I think you instantly think of someone like an Aussie sort of figure. And he even cites in his bio here that his favorite players are Joe, Ozzy, and for some reason Sarah Lacina, which is just so bizarre. It's like one of them is definitely not like the others, but again, like Joe and Ozzy, I can see that. I think that's the vibe I got from him right off the bat. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if he is a bit more strategic than either of those options. I mean, I can see him being like a Joe 1.0. essentially Joe before he started just relying on comp wins to make it throughout the entire game. Like, I can see the potential for Jason being kind of a figurehead for an alliance, probably being taken out in the early merge section of the game. That's kind of the vibe I get from him. Though, again, I think he's another one of these people that, like, if you let him go too far, I think he can become a very dangerous player, probably end up winning out. But I think it's really going to come down to how likable of a person he is. Again, if he's like an Aussie or possibly a Joe from what we've heard of him from later seasons, I do feel like it might be tough for him to win a jury vote, even if he does win out there, where, like, I do feel like he could possibly get on some people's bad sides. I mean, like, while Ozzy obviously wins South Pacific if he gets to the end, a lot of people on the island did not like Ozzy. And I feel like that's kind of the similar vibe I get from Jason here. Next up, we have Kieran. He is a strategy consultant. He's 29, and to me, right off the bat, the vibe I got from him was Rohan from BBK 9. Literally in the fact that they're both like strategy consultants, like have these jobs based around strategy. They talk about that in their bios. And to me, Kieran here comes off in a very similar sort of way, where I think Kieran is the type of person that is going to know his optimal strategic move if he has all of the information. And I feel like that was kind of a similar thing with Ro, where Ro did have a good strategic mind. It's just that he never had the correct information because he was so bad socially that he never got the correct reads off of people to make the right decision. I feel like Kieran might be in a similar sort of boat. Like, really, it's going to come down to how good Kieran is socially. Because, again, I feel like he's someone that, based on the way he talks, he seems like he gets the strategy. Seems like someone that is willing to play strategy. I also like in his cast photo that he's wearing this pineapple shirt, which kind of gives me Gavin from Edge of Extinction vibes in the sense that I'm thinking that he probably knew that wearing a shirt like this kind of makes him look like this nicer, less threatening sort of guy. So I do think that might be a factor in here as well. I do feel like Kieran has potential. I feel like he's definitely going to be one of my winner candidates here. And he is someone that, again, I am probably going to root for. Again, kind of similar to Ro from BBK 9. I root for Ro. I'm probably going to root for Kieran here as well. I feel like they're very similar archetype-wise. And to be honest, I probably feel more confident about Kieran on this season than I did with Ro. Next up, we have Marisha, who is 35, and right off the bat, I mean, she seems like she's going to be one of the stronger women on the cast. I mean, based on her bio, based on what we saw from the trailer, like, she does feel like one of the better physical competitors out of the women. However, that's not always a great thing on Survivor. I do feel like there is a big possibility that she comes off as a big threat, that she comes off as too domineering. I mean, she talks about how she is very driven in her bio and how she's not able to hide her true self, which very much comes off to me as someone that is probably going to end up being a domineering figure on her tribe, which can come off as very annoying a lot of times. I mean, we see this a lot where these more domineering, physically able women get taken out relatively early in the game. I mean, a big example, like from Palau, we have like Jolanda being the first boot on that season. We have someone like a Lucy from Millennials vs. Gen X being targeted there. Like, I could see a similar thing for Marisha here. And really, like, Marisha's someone that I just don't really see making a deep run in the season. Everything about her bio screams out to me as an early boot. Again, like someone that doesn't take adversity well, someone that isn't willing to let others take control. And yeah, I could be completely wrong about this. I could listen to an interview like a few days from now and like realize that she's like the sweetest person in the world. But just the vibe I'm getting from her bio is that she is going to be a pretty domineering figure here, and because of that, I don't really feel like she has that much of a shot in the game. Next up, we have Mike Laws, 32, another corporate lawyer, which is interesting. It is interesting that we have so many of these people that are very white collar, which might benefit some of these people if they are grouped together, these very similar sort of people. However, the thing that I find interesting about Mike here is that he actually mentions that he's a geek twice within the course of his bio. And he does talk a lot about how he's neurotic and he has anxiety issues. And that's not a great intro there to him. I mean, the way that he talks about himself makes him seem like a very like David Wright-esque figure, but then you look at the image of him and he just seems like a normal guy. Like, he doesn't seem to be the person that he's trying to portray himself as in the bio. I feel like Mike is one of the people that, again, like, I just have very little to go off of. I haven't seen any interviews with him. I've rarely seen him in any of the pre-game stuff here. To be honest, he might end up surprising me and becoming like a massive super fan of the game, someone that knows every little thing about the game, someone that's going to play very hard. But just off this bio here, he's coming off as very similar to someone like a Dino for me. But where Dino is like an escape game owner and someone that seems to be a bit more laid back, I could see Mike here having more issues integrating himself with most players in the game. But again, like the fact that there are many people with a very similar background to him does make me think that maybe that will benefit him in the long run. But again, someone that at the end of the day, if we're like comparing him to some of those other people that I have listed as my winner candidates, I just don't feel as confident about Mike as them. Next up, we have Nicole, a digital marketing manager, 26 years old. And she seems to be someone that is being cast as the young, attractive, probably secretly smart bikini girl. I mean, she does specifically mentions that she has packed her bikini and that she is going to get that survivor glow. Like, seems like someone that was very much cast because she is this very attractive person. Because to be honest, based on her bio, everything outside of that just comes off as super generic to me. I mean, she talks about how she's passionate, she's enthusiastic, she loves the thrill of the game, and how it challenges everything possible. It's like, I mean, this is what everyone would say. Again, like, I feel like I get nothing from her bio outside of the fact that, again, she talks about how she's packed her bikini. Again, like, I feel like everything else is just a generic statement that we would have heard from pretty much any other player. Now, in terms of her overall ability, again, like, it could go either way. I mean, I think she's one of these people that could be an early boot. She could be looked at as a weakness on her tribe, as someone that doesn't really bring much to her tribe. Or she could be someone that makes a deep run and possibly ends up playing really hard at the end, makes some moves, and possibly get a win. Again, it could go either way. Or she could be taken to the end as a GOAT. Either way, I mean, there's so many possibilities here. Very little information from me personally, so because I don't feel super confident about her to win the game. Next up, we have Nolene, who will be going by Pinty. And the vibe I get from Pinty is that she might be a really fun character. I mean, she calls herself a Janet of all trades. Just the fact that she's going by a different name and also has a bit of humor in her bio makes me think that, again, like, I think she could be a fun character. However, outside that, again, like, I don't get much from her bio. I mean, again, she just says the most generic things of like, oh, I want to meet new people, have meaningful, honest interactions. It's like, that's fine, but it's like, I don't really get much from that. Again, I think Nolene's not one of these people. It could go either way. Possibly an early boot. Does seem a bit different from a lot of the other people on the cast. Think could become a standout as an easy first boot. Or I think she's one of those people that if she makes it far into the game, I think she could build these bonds and be able to pull off some moves. However, I feel like she could be one of these people that if she makes it far into the game, maybe she's too likable to the point where people don't want to take her to the end. Or maybe she's too passive of a player in the end game and gets dragged to the end and gets no jury votes. There's so many questions here of Pinty that I don't really feel super confident in making her a winner candidate for me. But again, I think there's potential there if she makes it through the first few rounds. Next up, we have Paul, who is 29, and the first thing he mentions in his bio is that he's single, very single. And to me, everything from his bio here sounds terrible. Like, I mean, like, when I saw his image, like, when I saw him in the trailer, like, I was thinking, okay, this guy looks like he could be this really interesting player, maybe like a Rob Bentaleb-esque figure on his tribe. But then you read his bio and like everything about this is so bad to me. Again, like he keeps on talking about how he's a kind and loving person. He's someone who's up for the challenge spiritually, mentally, and physically. He often puts others before himself. Again, really bad for a game like Survivor. He wants to enter Survivor SA because it's a social experiment. And again, it's like, again, not a great outlook to have coming into season 8 of Survivor South Africa. Again, like a season of Survivor now 21 years after it was initially started. He talks about wanting to do this for the adventure and wants a bit of excitement in his life. Again, like all these things scream out to me as he has no clue what he's doing here. And again, I could be completely wrong. Like, again, like he could be one of these people that has been wanting to do this for years, knows what he's going to do, has a solid strategy. But based off of this bio, everything here just screams out to me as someone that has no clue what he's doing, is just there for the experience, and is someone that will probably just end up being the beta to a more strategic player. I don't think Paul's going home anytime soon. Like, I don't think he's an early boot. I don't think he is someone that is going to be this massive threat in the game until possibly towards the end game. But at the same time, I don't really feel confident in him winning the game. I don't think he is someone that is going to be the most active player out there. So again, not someone I'm super confident in. Next up, we have Kihan, who describes herself as fun employed, which I don't fully know what that means. Obviously, it's a pun on unemployed. I get it. But it's like, what does that actually mean? Especially because like it says that she's from Cape Town, but then it also says that she's Taiwan born and currently Hong Kong based. Which it's like, then how are you from Cape Town? And also the fact that if she's based in Hong Kong, how did she even get on Survivor South Africa? Considering that Survivor South Africa is filming in South Africa with the entire point of being to avoid all of the COVID stuff. So it's like, I don't get what's going on here, but whatever. But Kihan is someone that's really strange to me because based on her cast photo, like I would have guessed that she's this super intense person. This person who's going to be like super cutthroat in the game. Someone who's going to play very hard, probably too hard, probably get taken out very early. But then you read her bio and she talks about how she's extremely empathetic and how she is going to cry and she's not afraid of showing her vulnerability, which again is not the vibe I got at all from her cast photo. So because of that, I'm kind of two minds on her because I think based on her bio, she seems like someone that I think could be a solid enough player. Again, I think if she finds her group of people, I think she could ride that group for a while and possibly be someone that's still willing to make moves towards the end of the game. However, I think it is very dependent on finding that initial group. I do think if she's left out of the majority alliance early on, I do feel like she could be an easy boot there. As again, she does seem very different from the rest of the cast. She seems to be a lot more free-spirited than a lot of the cast. Like, I do feel like she's definitely going to find some people here and there to bond with. But whether or not that group is going to be the majority, I think is going to be the big issue with her. But again, like I feel like she's someone that I have trouble seeing her actually win the game, as based on everything we see from her bio, I don't feel like she's cutthroat enough to win the game. But again, I could be entirely wrong on that. But because of that, I didn't really have her as a winner candidate for me. Next up, we have Renier. I don't know how you pronounce his name. But to me, right off the bat, the first vibe I get from him is Jacques. I think that's the first thing. Again, like 30 years old, kind of similar age to Jacques. Talks about how him and his wife have watched every season of Survivor. It's his dream to be out there. And he seems like a similar archetype to Jacques. And to me, I feel like he doesn't have the same potential that Jacques did. I feel like when Jacques came into his season, he did have some downside of like possible first boot, but also had a lot of potential of being this underestimated sort of person. With Renier, I don't know how you pronounce his name, I don't get that vibe at all. I think he seems like someone that is going to be a big super fan of the game and kind of blow up his own game. Like he does scream out to me as the type of super fan that ends up being a very bad player. Yeah, I could be completely wrong on that. Maybe he does have a great understanding of the game and doesn't play too hard right off the bat and doesn't alienate people within his tribe. But the vibe that I am getting is that he is going to be one of those people that blows up his game very early on and probably gets taken out very early. But also, like, I just feel like he comes off as someone that is going to be a threat at some point within the game. Like, I feel like there's almost no way this guy is getting to the end of the game without being targeted at some point. Now, maybe for all I know, he becomes someone that finds a whole bunch of idols, is able to play those successfully, get towards the end of the game. But, like, I'm not feeling great about him. And really, he just screams out to me as an early boot. Next up, we have Santoni, who, again, is one of the few people I have seen talk. I mean, she does have a bio video out there on Twitter that I've seen. And I like Santoni. I mean, I think to me, she has two different ways her trajectory can go. Where I do think there's a potential for like a Nicole-esque run for her, where she does come off as this very intense older woman sort of figure for her tribe. And she's not that old. I mean, she's only 39. They're older people on this cast. But again, being this like business owner, slightly above the average, I do feel like she could go that trajectory of being too intense, or really just being targeted as a quote-unquote weakness for her tribe. But I feel like there's Suri upside here. I feel like there's upside of her making it to the merge. And if she does, I feel like she has a lot of potential to maneuver at that point. I feel like she is someone that could be an early boot. She could be one of the first few boots of the season. But if she makes it far into the season, I feel like at that point she's perfectly positioned to make some pretty big moves there. And I feel like if she makes it to the end, she could be likable enough to win. I mean, she seems to be propping up this storyline that she is this non-survivor looking person. Again, it screams out to me that she is trying to be this Suri figure. But again, Suri's kind of an anomaly. Obviously, Suri is one of the best players in the history of Survivor. So to expect Santoni here to match Suri is obviously a massive, massive undertaking there. And again, I do think there is large potential for her to be an early boot. But again, I am hoping that she does make it far into the game. And with her seeming to be also a big fan of the game, like, I do feel like there's a lot of potential there for her to make moves. Can she get the respect at the end? I think that's another question. But she is someone that I do really like, but again, another one that I just don't feel confident enough to put her as a winner candidate. Next up, we have Sean Wilson, a 40-year-old IT entrepreneur. And again, another one of these, like, with a very white-collar-esque job. But to be honest, like, when I first saw this guy, the first person that came to my mind was Okert. I was thinking of, like, okay, this is going to be Okert from Survivor South Africa Season 3, or it's possibly going to be like an Andrew Savage-esque figure. Again, a 40-ish-year-old, white-collar job. I mean, Okert was a professional athlete, but you get the point. Essentially, this very alpha person that's going to be very domineering, be the leader of their group, and be targeted first from their group when they get to the merge. That's the first vibe I got from Sean. But then you read his bio, and again, he comes off as someone completely different. He talks about how geeky he is, how he spends a lot of time playing Apex Legends. This kind of brings out a different side than I was expecting. I do still expect him to be an Andrew Savage-esque figure. Again, it's really going to come down to how alpha he is. Like, can he lay back? Or is he going to be the dominant figure in his tribe, run the game, up until the point where his group loses the numbers and be taken out? Or it could go in the best route possible, where his group comes into the merge with numbers and he steamrolls. I think it could go either way. However, obviously I'm leaning towards the former. I don't feel super great about him, though I do feel like he does have potential to have a decent run in the game. But still, for me, not really a winner candidate. Next up, we have Teresa, who's another person here that screams out to me as having no clue what they're doing on this cast. Like, it's so bizarre to me that she talks about how she'll stand out in the show because she couldn't be caught dead camping, and how she is a creature of comfort and never do something like this alone. Like, all this screams out to me as, again, she has no clue what she's doing here. Again, obviously there is that potential for her to be like a Suri-esque figure, but I feel like I see Santoni being a lot more of a Suri than I do with Teresa, where again, I've at least seen Santoni talk about her love of the game and how she is a massive fan of the game. We see none of that from Teresa, from her bio at least, where again, she doesn't talk about the actual game at all. I mean, she talks about how she's an eternal optimist, she's fiercely loyal, she's a colorful character. That's cool, but everything about her is screaming out to me as an early boot. I feel like Santoni probably has the bigger, like, Suri upside of being this fish out of the water that ends up making a deeper run, ends up playing a pretty good game. Like, Teresa technically has that potential there as well, but I feel like her potential isn't nearly as high as Santoni's for me. So again, Teresa is someone that I don't feel super confident about. Next up, we have Tyson, a creative director and entrepreneur. I believe one of the younger people in the cast here at 24. And at first, I was feeling great about him. When I saw him in the trailer, I was thinking, okay, that guy looks like someone I would pick as my winner pick. I think we look at his bio. I mean, he says he's super creative, a jack of all trades. That sounds good, but then it all goes downhill from there. I mean, next up, he mentions 10 out of 10 times, I always speak my mind and do what I feel. Again, not great for Survivor. Talks about how he's entered Survivor South Africa as a learning experience. Again, when it comes to Survivor, you need to know who you are coming into the season. Like, to actually win the game and play a good game, I do feel like you need to already know who you are. You don't need to learn who you are while you're out there. You need to know who you are so that you can fully utilize all of your ability to win the game. And the fact that he's coming in here as a learning experience, not great. He talks about how he wants to be a big player in the film and TV industry, and learning firsthand from the biggest show in the country is a massive opportunity. Again, all this screams out to me that he's coming on the show here for the publicity, and that he really doesn't have much of a clue of what he's actually doing here. Like, he might have the natural born ability that someone like a Rob Bentley had to play the game, dominate the game, but again, even coming into that season, I did not feel good about Rob Bentley. And in a similar way, I don't feel great about Tyson. Again, he might surprise me, he might end up becoming a great player, but based on what we're seeing here, he just screams out to me as someone that's a bit over his head and is really mainly there to get some publicity, before entering the film and TV industry. Next up, we have the final player on the cast. We have Wardah, who is another yoga instructor and fitness professional, which again, there's a few others in that similar mold in this cast. I mean, I think someone like Anesu is someone that comes to mind, as I feel like they could get along. She talks about how she used to be a journalist and was so for 20 years. She again feels like one of the more athletic women on the cast. I do think, again, the question for me with Wardah is how intense she's going to be. I feel like that's going to be the determining factor there on how well she ends up doing. Again, going back to Marisha, where again, I feel like these two, to me, scream out as very similar figures on the cast. And that kind of also tells me that I feel like one of them is being cast as the alpha sort of figure, while the other one is being cast more so as a likable sort of figure. And again, it's very tough to assess which one is which based off these bios and everything. But the fact that I get more of Wardah's background here, like I feel like I get to know her more through this bio. And the fact that she is a yoga instructor and like all this stuff, like it makes me feel like she is the more calming presence of the two, that she is going to be the less domineering figure. And because I feel like she would have a lot more potential within the game. Like she seems to be someone that has a lot of life experience and hopefully is able to use that effectively on this season. However, I don't really get a good sense of what her strategy is on this season, how she thinks about the game. And that is the main reason why I'm not picking her as a winner candidate for me, though I do think she has a lot of potential on this season. So there we go. I mean, that is the entire cast. And if you couldn't tell there, did not have a lot of winner candidates here, largely because of the fact that I just have such limited information here. I ended up only picking 2 people that were potential winner candidates for me. And again, these 2 people are the 2 people that I think I'm going to personally be rooting for, which I definitely think plays a factor here, where like because we have such limited information, I feel like I might as well go with someone that I want to root for. So for my winner pick here, I have narrowed it down to Dino and to Kieran. Probably the 2 people on this season that I have the most faith in strategically. And I will say that something that is playing a factor here is that we have heard from Wardah, the creative director of the show, and from Mnet themselves, that they talk about this season as being a hyper strategic season, as being a season with big moves, and being a season where this cast is here to play. And to be honest, it's kind of screaming out to me that we're going to get such a dynamic game that I think neither of these people will probably win. But again, like, then who do I pick? It's so tough to really gauge here who to really pick as the winner pick. So again, I'm just going to go with my gut, go with the person who I am going to be rooting for. While I do think this person is too obvious of a pick, and I feel like this person more than likely will not win, I'm going to go with this person anyway, just because this is the person that I feel like most resembles the way that I would want the game to be played. So I am going to go with Dino over Kieran here. And Kieran, for me, I think there's just enough there to where I just don't know how he is going to do socially within the game. While I feel like with Dino, I kind of get him being a better social and strategic thinker. He is a massive super fan of the game. I do think with that comes some hesitancy with, is he going to play too hard? But again, the way that he talks about the game, I think he gets it. Now, I think, again, there's also the issue of his background probably being different than some of these other players. Where, again, there's a lot of white-collar people on this cast. There's a lot of more physically minded people in this cast. And Dino is neither of those. I mean, Dino doesn't really have a white-collar job. Again, he's a escape game owner, and he doesn't seem to be this super physically fit person. So I do think that is a worry. But again, at the end of the day, with such little information on a lot of these people, I just feel like I might as well go with the person who I want to win, the person who I am rooting for. And at that point, considering how big of a fan he seems to be, I'm going with Dino. Though realistically, if I was given more information on a lot of these players, I would probably go for a middle of the road person. As again, like I feel like the sense that I get from this season is that we are going to get a very dynamic endgame stretch this season. Probably one where all the big threats are going to be taken out in the middle of the merge, back to back to back to back. Kind of in a similar way to how Edge of Extinction played out, obviously with the exception of Chris returning at the end of the game. But essentially, that's the vibe that I'm getting, where we're going to get a lot of people making big moves and then being taken out immediately after making those big moves, which would leave us with a group of people at the end that are kind of just these middle of the road sort of people that didn't make a lot of big moves. But I think once I'm trying to predict like who those people will be, there's just so much high variance there that I'm just going to go with who I like. So I'm picking Dino. And there we go. I mean, that is my cast assessment for Survivor South Africa Immunity Island. Again, very tough to assess these people with so little information, but with Big Brother Canada and the circle going on, the Challenge All-Stars, like we have so much going on right now. I feel like I might as well just get this out of the way right away. So there we go. And since we're here and this is a very impromptu video, I might as well kind of give a bit of a channel update in the sense that next videos after this one will be a BB-Can 9 season review. Obviously, that's ending very soon. Immediately after that will be a Circle US Season 2 review. Stay tuned for those. I will also be doing a Big Brother Canada 9 player ranking. And also, I will be doing a review of the Challenge All-Stars later down the road. So obviously, that's a lot. When it comes down to Survivor South Africa here, I will be doing a mid-season power ranking once we get to the merge section of the game, where I rank everyone left at the merge and kind of talk about my thoughts on the season so far. So that's obviously a ways away, but stay tuned for that. Obviously, when the season ends, I will be doing a season review and player ranking at the end. So that should be some fun. And since we're here, I guess I might as well announce this as well, something that I have been doing a bit of in the last week or so and might potentially do more moving down the road, is that I have started a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/themaranianreview, where I am streaming every now and then and just playing some games and just talking about random stuff. Now, it's not a professional setup. I'm purely just playing games with the mic on and just talking about random stuff, whether that be Big Brother Canada or Survivor South Africa or random thoughts on Assassin's Creed. Again, it can be anything. It's whatever I want to talk about. But I have been streaming here and there over the course of the last week. I do plan on streaming moving forward. Again, it's just a very casual stream. If you want to join, that'll be cool. Ask some questions. I'll answer them. I have also started a VOD channel called The Maranian Review Live, where I'm obviously posting the VODs after those streams. So again, like that's going on. If you want to follow that, cool. If you don't, that's okay too. Just I might as well announce that that is something that I am currently doing as well. But there we go. I mean, that is my cast assessment for Survivor South Africa Immunity Island. Really excited for this season. Should be a lot of fun. But for now, that's the video. Thank you for watching.